Like always, let's begin with the Digi-Egg cards, and starting off, I got 4 copies of the BT19 Ryugumon, which has one of the most unique inherited effects that we've seen for an archetype, because during the opponent's turn, when an opponent's Digimon attacks, we get to bottom deck one of our Digimon that has Sea Animal or Aqua in any of its traits, and then we get to return one of their Digimon with the level equal or as lower than it back to their hand, so that we can potentially disrupt an attack. Now, the whole idea, you might be thinking, it's kind of neg when you bottom deck your own Digimon, but this is where the whole mechanic of Decode and the new keyword really comes in, which we'll talk about more just in a bit. And another thing I want to mention specifically is that most of the cards in this trait and the effects looks for Sea Animal or Aqua in any of its traits, meaning that it covers anything with a similar word, which is going to specifically be Aquatic for us as well, which we're going to get more into as we talk into our level 3s, with 4 copies of xiangpengmon, which has that rule trait Aquatic. Now, I mainly play xiangpengmon to help us search for cards that we need, grabbing anything that's Aqua related, and Liberator at the same time with its own line. And with its inherent effect, it gives us a memory at the end of attack. As for the secondary rookie, I'm running 4 copies of Betamon, which is mainly intended to give us the jamming inheritable, which is really important to make sure that we can swing safely into the opponent's security. Aside from that, when you play it out from the sources, you get to stun down your opponent's Digimon by preventing it from attacking for one whole turn. And then to round off for all the rookies, I'm running the one of each floodgate of Otamamon and Modoki Betamon just to stop memory gain and also stop cost reduction plays. Let's now talk about our level 4s, where I'm running 4 copies of Xiaomon, and with its Windage evolving effect, lets us play Yaoqinglan, which is our main tamer of the deck, as long as we have 1 or fewer tamers. Potentially being able to play out 2 for free is just incredible value. And with its inherent effect, just like Xiangpengmon, gaining a memory at the end of attack definitely comes up when it comes to synergizing with our combos. Then for the secondary level 4s, I'm running 3 copies of the xiangpengmon. When you play this card, you get to draw 1, but if you play it from a source, you also get to gain a memory. Itself also has the rule trait of Aquatic, which is important to synergize with the archetype. It also provides the inheritable of jamming, similar reason to why we run the Betamon, so that we can ensure safety attacks. And then I'm running 2 copies of the xiangpengmon, which gives us the battle protection when we digivolve or play it out. And with its inherent effect, we get to give something rush when we play a Digimon off sources, so then we can go for aggressive attacks. And if you guys don't have access to this xiangpengmon, don't worry, because there's plenty of other level 4 cards that you can play as we talk about it in the tech choices later. Then to round up for the level 4s, I'm running 2 copies of Lanamon. Not only it is a hybrid for game, as we can digivolve on top of a tamer, we'll also get to tuck in additional sources by searching the top 3 when we get into her to set up for additional pieces that we can potentially play out later on as well. With her inherited effect, we also get to bounce rookies on the opponent's side, which is always fantastic at getting rid of floodgates too. For level 5s, got the main line of the deck with 4 copies of Marine Bullmon. Itself has Aquatic in its trait as well, thanks to the rule trait, and this is where the whole Decode really comes in. What Decode does is that when this Digimon will leave the battle area aside from battle, you get to play out the level below it out for free. And this is where we get to float our bodies constantly with all the effects, and this is really where it synergizes with Ryugumon, which we talked about right in the beginning. It has a non-play and Windage evolving effect, letting us tuck in any Sea Animal or Aqua trait Digimon from our hand underneath it to rack up additional inheritables, but also potentially play it back once again. And with its inherited effect, at the end of attack, we get to play something out that is level 4 or lower from the sources too. Then I got 2 copies of the xiangpengmon, which lets us play out the level 3 from our sources. And with its inherited effect, we get to utilize it when attacking by tucking that source back underneath it to unsuspend, so then we can make multiple attacks. Then to round off for the level 5s, I got 2 copies of Zoodle Ace, which is a sea beast, which does not have any synergy with the Sea Animal or Aquatic trait. Unless if I'm wrong, but let me know in the comments down below. Now, the reason of running this card is not only just to blast Ace encounter against the opponent, strip sources, and bounce something. The whole idea is really to synergize with our main level 6, which is Ryugumon, and I'm running 4 copies of it. And that's because of Decode. Decode level 5 from Ryugumon, if it would ever leave the battle area aside from battle, that's when we can actually play out the Zoodle Ace from underneath it, utilize its on play again to disrupt the opponent's board without giving Ace overflow. Aside from that, Ryugumon also has a Windage evolving effect, which we can play out at level 4 from its sources as well. At the end of the turn, we get to bottom deck one of our Digimon so that we can bottom deck the opponent's Digimon with the same level or lower as well. And this is where it can also synergize with Decode. For my secondary level 6, I'm running 2 copies of the BT19 xiangpengmon. Itself does cost 5 to digivolve, but you can potentially turn it to a 2-cost digivolve, because when you go into it, you can tuck in a Aqua or Sea Animal trait Digimon on your board underneath it to gain 3 memory back. Itself has Security +1 and Blocker and 13k DP, which is really strong for aggressive attacks. Then to round up for all of our Digimon and our one and only level 7, I'm currently testing out aegisdramon, which I really like being able to play additional bodies and go wider and wider, and we can also utilize it again and again when our opponents play a Digimon as well. As we move on to the Tamers, I'm running 4 copies of Xiangpengmon, which is our main memory setter, and the whole intention is to utilize her secondary effect, which really synergizes with our core combos as we attack, so that we can place additional level 5 or lower aquatic or sea animal traits into our sources, so then we can potentially play them out and keep our body afloat, and even keep our Decode alive as much as possible. For options, I got the standard 4 copies of Mental Training and Blue Memory Boost to help us climb pieces and gain memory, and as we digivolve up the stack effectively. Then to round up for all the options, my choice of removal is Watatsumi Purification, which is Ryugumon's signature move, letting us bottom deck opponents level 4 or lower Digimon, but by returning one of our own blue Digimon, which can be any level, to our bottom of the deck, we can then bottom deck a opponent's level 6 or lower Digimon instead, which is fantastic at getting rid of big bosses. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also consider running in this deck. Since this deck has a lot of control elements, sometimes games tend to prolong, which is why you might run a 5th egg. So the first recommendation I have is the BT14 Bukamon for additional jamming, or you can also run the BT7 Bukamon to gain a memory when you play stuff off sources, which is always nice. As for other rookies, Gomamon is also great to give you additional floating, stripping sources, and unblockability for an entire turn. Swimmon is another aquatic that you can include as a level 3, which has evade and jamming as inherentable. Then for other level 4s, aside from the promo Seedramon that you can run in the main deck instead, includes the BT19 Seedramon. As you digivolve or play it out, you get to bounce a level 3, which is great to get rid of floodgates and provide you additional jamming. The BT15 Seedramon itself has Rush, which is great for aggressive attacks and also provides the same jamming. Then there's also the EX3 Ebidramon. When you play it out, you can give something blocker, and if it's played from sources, you get to unsuspend so you can make additional attacks. There's also the BT19 Huangkumon, which itself is a blocker, and when you digivolve into it, you get to have battle protection for an entire turn. And with its inheritable, it helps you play around blockers and redirections as well. If you want additional board control with your level 6s, the older xiangpengmon is also great, because if you have a wide board of fishies, you can actually tuck a bunch of them back underneath it, and then you get to bottom deck your opponent's Digimon. The more you put away underneath its sources, the higher level you can go for by returning multiples at the same time. And with its secondary effect, when you tuck something underneath, you get to play something back out that's level 5 or lower as well. Then as a secondary tamer, Homer also lets you play out a level 3 from the sources of your stack. You get to utilize the on play of your level 3, and with this card's second effect, because you played out a blue Digimon, you can suspend him to tuck in the same source or another level 4 or lower on your board back underneath it to recycle your inheritable. Then for additional removal options, you can also include Sea of Destruction or Great Male Storm, which are really great cards to help you add additional sources underneath your stack to either return your opponent's Digimon back to the hand or bottom deck them. Then since this is a blue deck after all, you can always include the standard one-offs of Hammer Spark and Ice Wall for memory manipulation and defensive insecurity. Alright, combos and how to play the new Aquatic and Ryugumon deck. It is stack-based building after all, so it's very basic. As you climb up, you want to see your level 3s, 4s, 5, and 6s. So with boost trainings to help you find with your mulligan hand. To begin with our first combo, all you need is a rookie and raising. In this case, we say we have a Betamon, and 1 memory is all you need to climb all the way up to level 5. You want to have either a boost or training, whichever that gives you access to that extra 2 memory to work with during the turn is totally fine. In this case, let's just say you have mental training. Push out Betamon and use mental training to digivolve into Xiaomon for free. Xiaomon is going to let you play out Yao, and afterwards you can go ahead and actually swing with the Xiaomon into your opponent's security because you have Betamon with jamming. This is where you want to use Yao's effect to tuck a Sangomon underneath, or anything that you want depending on what resources you have in the hand. And at the end of the attack, Sangomon is going to gain you a memory. To end the turn, all you have to do is then just digivolve into Marine Bullmon for the 3 cost. Marine Bullmon is going to have, when digivolving, allowing you to tuck in another source underneath, and this time we're going to put down a xiangpengmon, which is going to be important, although you guys might be thinking double jamming is not necessary. But by passing your opponent to 3 memory, this is where you can use your Puyoyomon to stop your opponent's attacks. If your opponent threatens Marine Bullmon, this is where you can utilize Decode to come out to play a xiangpengmon by bottom back decking the Marine Bullmon, and then with xiangpengmon, you can gain a memory, potentially even stealing the turn back to you if your opponent was at 0 to begin with. So for combo number 2, this is going to be a follow-up of combo number 1, assuming your opponent's not able to address the stack from earlier. And this is when we can get into Ryugumon. Even though with 4 costs, we can potentially keep turn as we get to Digivolve for 4. And this is why it's really important to have the xiangpengmon, because at the when Digivolving effect of Ryugumon, we're going to play out xiangpengmon. xiangpengmon on play, going to draw 1. Because it's played from Digitalization sources, we get to gain 1 memory back. This is what's going to keep our turn. Keep in mind, Ryugumon's end of turn effect will trigger here, and you have the option to choose to use it or not, since it does say buy in its text. So in this case, we're not going to use it just yet, because what we want to do is attack with the Ryugumon, suspend the Yao to place something underneath. This time, let's just say we place a aegisdramon promo underneath, and whatever you have in your hand is totally up to you at that moment to gain your advantages that way. Once the attack is finished, you're going to resolve Shell and Sangomon to gain a memory each, and you get to play something back out with Marine Bullmon's end of turn inheritable. And this time, we're going to go ahead and play a Shellmon here. Since Shellmon is played out from the sources by an effect, Xiangpengmon gets to give it rush, so we get to have the option to attack if we want to or not. But here, what we really want to do is Digivolve into Marine Bullmon for 3 costs, and this will then end the turn. You can use this when Digivolving effect to tuck something underneath, but in this case, I don't really want to, because I intend to actually use the end of turn of Ryugumon's effect now to bottom deck my own Marine Bullmon to bomb deck the opponent's Digimon. If I tuck something underneath, it'll get trashed by the sources, which is not ideal. Then with Decode, we get to play out the xiangpengmon. Once the xiangpengmon is placed, we get to draw a card, and we also get to gain a memory once again because it was played off sources. This is a setup I really like because you end the board with 2 level 4s, meaning you can potentially go into a Zudomon ace even if your opponent removes one or the other. But at this point, you just want to find different ways to pass the turn back to your opponent by giving them as little memory as possible, and then we have a follow-up OTK combo afterwards. So for the final combo, I'm going to show you guys how you can potentially OTK as a follow-up, but since you chipped out your opponent's security early stages as well, that's even better. That means it's easier to pull off too. So what we're going to do is attack with Ryugumon. Suspend Yao to tuck something underneath this place. Let's go for xiangpengmon again. Although we have jamming, that's why it's really important to make sure that we survive those safety checks, but that's why you guys can understand we'll always get to play things back out. At the end of attack, Sangomon is going to gain us a memory. And then with the end of attack of Marine Bullmon, we're going to go ahead and play out this xiangpengmon here. Since it's played out from sources or by an effect, Xiangpengmon's going to give it rush as well. Xiangpengmon's going to draw a card and gain us a memory since it's played from sources. Next, Digivolve Xiangpengmon into Huangkumon for 3. Huangkumon is going to let us play out Sangomon from the sources. Sangomon can search, and then we can continue to play off of it too. We're going to want to Digivolve into xiangpengmon, which is our secondary level 6 boss. Now with xiangpengmon's when Digivolving effect by tucking underneath another Aquatic, which will be our Sangomon, we get to gain 3 memory back. And then we can use xiangpengmon to attack, and using Huangkumon's when attacking by placing another Digimon underneath, which will be Xiaomon, we get to unsuspend Huangkumon as well. Since we took 1 check, opponent's down to 4 security. xiangpeng is going to take down 2 with security +1, and at the end of attack, we also get to gain a memory each with jamming thanks to xiangpengmon as well. Then we attack again for another 2 checks, that's 5 checks in total, assuming the opponent started with 5 security, and then since the xiangpengmon has rush, we can use it to finish the game off.
Don't forget to grab the Spirit Transcendence collection on the AVAULT store right now as we have limited quantities. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.